Yesterday, it was announced that the Minnesota Vikings had come to terms on a contract extension agreement with head coach Kevin O'Connell, locking him up as the Minnesota Vikings head coach for the foreseeable future. He was heading into the last year of his first contract, which would have expired at the end of 2025. But that is no longer a concern. The Vikings have swooped in rather quickly, I might add, this offseason and locked up Kevin O'Connell to be their head coach for the foreseeable future. And that is of significant importance going forward for this franchise, because I believe that Kevin O'Connell has established himself as one of the better head coaches in the league, where he has managed to get the most out of the talent that he has been given. And that is a trait that I don't think that you want to sort of discard, if you will. So let's talk about the Kevin O'Connell extension, which, of course, we don't have details as of this recording. We don't know the years. We don't know the money. The money I really don't care about, because coach salaries don't count for the cap hit, so it's irrelevant. And the years ultimately are relevant in the grand scheme of things, but I think it's going to be a long enough contract that we're going to see the full-fledged development and success or failure of J.J. McCarthy as the starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings going forward. We'll see where we land in 2025 if he wins the quarterback job, out of the gate, but, that's to be determined. The other important aspect of this is the fact that as of this recording also, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, the reports are that he is in a position to get a contract extension as well. It hasn't happened yet as of this recording, but I am convinced that he will absolutely be getting a contract extension, because these two in tandem have done very, very well in their first 3 years with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, why this is important. Strike that. Not most, absolutely not most. But I have seen a lot of rumblings since the Vikings playoff loss to the Rams, where fans on the internet, go figure, were calling for the head of Kevin O'Connell because he has not performed well in big game situations. And that's a fair criticism, right? That is an absolutely fair criticism, where the first season we saw them as a first-round exit against the New York Giants, a bad New York Giants team, if you will. And then this year, you had him as a first-round exit again against the Los Angeles Rams. And if you want to count it as a playoff game, which you probably could convince me, given the fact that it was that important, Week 18 against the Lions, an absolute no-show in Detroit for that game with a lot on the line, the first seed, the only bye in the playoffs. So there is a lot of criticism that is well-deserved. Well-deserved, absolutely. But here's the thing that you got to understand about the Minnesota Vikings when it comes to Kevin O'Connell and what we've seen over the past 3 years. And that's the fact that Vikings ownership loves this, right? They absolutely love what Kevin O'Connell has done for this team in the past 3 years, because each of the 3 seasons that he's been the head coach, they've been relevant late into the season. And people are going to, well, 2024 was a disaster, right? Because they only won 8 or 9 games. Well, you only really got to win 8 or 9 to get into the playoffs, because there's a 7 seed now. Even though the 7 seed is highly relevant, you can still get in. The way that Minnesota Vikings ownership thinks, the Will family, the way that they think is they look across the country. They look at Pennsylvania. They look at Pittsburgh specifically. And they have a real affinity for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they view the Pittsburgh Steelers as the bar. This is what they want the team to be. They want the team to be a model of consistency, to the point where that they are always playing relevant games in December. That's the goal. Now, ultimately, the goal is to win the Super Bowl. They're going to tell you that 6 ways to Sunday. But they're more than happy with sustained, consistent success to the point where they are relevant as close to the end of the season as possible. And that's largely what led to the contract extensions of Chris Spielman and Mike Zimmer back in 2019, when they beat the Saints in the playoffs, because they were like, hey, we're relevant. We're going to give them another chance at this. We'll give them another crack at it. Ultimately, that didn't work, but that's the way that the thought process works with the Will family, is that they view the Pittsburgh Steelers as the model to sort of copy, if you will. And they want that consistency. Now, obviously, the goal is to win a Super Bowl, but, I think their issue, or their problem, if I could critique that thought process for a moment, is that the NFL tournament is not a tournament that you get into and see what happens, right? It's not like the NHL where you can get in, you could be the Columbus Blue Jackets, the lowest seed in the bracket, you could go up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, the President's Trophy winner, and you could sweep them out of the first round. That doesn't happen in the NFL. Look at the seeds that are remaining. I think Washington is the only outlier, if you will. So that is sort of where the thought process behind a Kevin O'Connell extension comes from. And honestly, the extension is rightfully deserved, right? Because a 13-win season right out of the gate, he got the most out of Kirk Cousins, more than Mike Zimmer ever did. He probably got the most out of Josh Dobbs that anybody's ever going to get. And he's got the most out of Sam Darnold that probably anybody is ever going to get. Now, it remains to be seen where Sam Darnold ends up in 2025. I personally think he will end up on a different team, but if he goes to a different team, he's not repeating the success that he had in Minnesota. I don't buy it whatsoever. So Kevin O'Connell deserves a lot of credit for what he's done. And obviously there's critiques that you can throw at him that are well-deserved, and there are definitely areas that he needs to work on when it comes to the running game, when it comes to, play calling in certain situations, and when it comes to changing his approach when the situation calls for it, when he's being out-coached in games, and, he has to make those halftime adjustments, and he has to make those, fourth quarter playbook changes where it's like, hey, this play is not working, let me throw it out. Hey, this scheme isn't working, let me adapt to it, let me change it, let me fix it. Those are the changes and growth that we need to see out of Kevin O'Connell over the next however many years this contract extension is for. So that is sort of my take on the news that happened yesterday. Couldn't jump on here and make a video, but as you can see, we're going to make an attempt to cover current events as quickly as we can. So let me know what you think in the comments below about the extension for Kevin O'Connell. I think that this is good. I think that this also comes with expectations. Now you're 0-2 in the playoffs after 3 years. Now you have to sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to put your stamp on the program in a manner that says, hey, we're not just a regular season team. We can be a threat in the playoffs going forward. And that's what I have wanted for years. I want sustained playoff appearances. I want sustained success. And I will say this, there was a healthy amount of Vikings fans after the playoff loss to the Rams calling for Kevin O'Connell to be fired. And I think that that is nonsense for two reasons. Number one, it's too soon because we got J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wings, and that is Kevin O'Connell's next project. And I think that we're about to hit a grand slam with that. Number two, Kevin O'Connell is your offensive coordinator. If you fire a head coach, you're also firing your offensive coordinator. So you're effectively firing two people. And I have waited for years, for the Vikings to have a head coach that was the play caller, because now you look at the Lions in the division, all those fans are getting very upsetty spaghetti about their coordinators getting poached. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We don't have to worry about offensive coordinators getting poached to go be head coaches for other teams, because the head coach is the coordinator. And that is just a fantastic place to be in. So that's going to do it for this video. That is my take and my thoughts about the contract extension for Kevin O'Connell. Let me know what yours are in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.